Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today's video is a little bit different, but I have done something like this before, and it's basically a try a chapter. So I have 3 books here that I really want to read, and I want to just try the first chapter and give you my first impressions on the writing, the story, if I'm hooked, what I think of the characters, just basically what I'm thinking about the book from the first chapter, and if I want to continue reading it right now, never, later, I don't know. So, the books that I picked are Slave to Sensation by Nailani Singh. I have heard about this series for years. It's been on my TBR multiple times. I know that Jesson, my dear friend Jesson, talks about the series a lot. I've been meaning to start it for so long. SD sent me this for the holidays, and so therefore it is a priority read of mine in 2023. So this is basically it's like a paranormal romance series with Psy, which don't really know what those are yet. I'm sure you do if you've heard of the series. So you have Psy, and then you have Changelings. Changelings are like shifters. Psy are some, I'm not sure, but I think they are some type of fae, magic, fantasy elements, romance. I'm very excited. I have read Nailani Singh before. I've read the first book in her Guild Hunters series, and I liked it. I thought her writing was good. I meant to continue reading that series, and then I just never did. So we're going to start this. We're going to read a chapter, tell you what I think. I'll have more in-depth thoughts once I read it. Another book that I have is one that maybe y'all are not prepared for me to say, but it's this thick, look how thick, beautiful book called The Wayfarer Redemption by Sarah Douglas. So let me just tell you, Jesson and I talk a lot about books almost every single day, as long as our schedules permit. She was telling me we've been talking about fantasy books a lot lately, and she was like, oh my gosh, I really was thinking about this author, Sarah Douglas, and I'd be really curious to know what you think. And she was kind of telling me a little bit about them, and being who I am, I immediately searched the books on eBay, found some paperback copies of this thickness, and I bought them, the first 2 books. So we're going to read this. This is my Eddie bookmark. We're going to read the first chapter of this. I'm not entirely sure how many pages are in here, but I'm going to read, maybe not technically the whole first chapter if it's super long, but I'm going to give myself enough to read and have a good sense of the author's writing and the story and the characters. Those are the 3 things that I'm most interested in. Those are the 3 things that are really going to determine if it's a book that I immediately want to pick up and continue reading. Okay, this last book is on my January TBR. I haven't started it yet, and it is Alone with You in the Ether. So I am so extremely curious about this book. I'm so curious about the author's writing. I know that she is very, very, very famous on TikTok and such for the Atlas 6. I've heard pretty mixed reviews about this, but I am still very curious, and I really want to know what my thoughts are on it. So, yeah, I don't know exactly what this is. This says it's a love story like no other, exploring the nature of love, what it means to be unwell, and how to face the fractures of ourselves and still love as if we're not broken. Like, honestly, that sounds amazing. So we're going to give this one a try. So the first book, the one I'm going to read first, is this one, The Wayfarer Redemption. I mean, like, it's just so cool looking, right? So this book was published in the 90s, and I have a feeling the chapters in here are going to be quite long. Let's see. Well, the prologue is 11 pages. Maybe we'll just do the prologue. I'll read the prologue, and then I'll tell you my thoughts on that. So, see you in just a minute.
The last breath of summer is blowing down our necks, and soon we'll wave goodbye to the fleeting bliss.
Alright, this was gripping, okay? So I truly didn't really know what to expect, and to be fair, I did only read the prologue, which is 11 pages, which is not much, but a whole lot happened. And then it also had, like, this big poem, which is the Prophecy of the Destroyer, and there were also several maps in the front. So, my first impressions. So I don't exactly know what the overall plot is. I didn't read the back, so I don't have a summary for you. But I did get a little bit of a gist from the poem. Basically, it sounds like there are two rivals. Actually, I don't know for sure. So the writing style in here is very easy to consume. It feels very reminiscent of peak high fantasy writing. It leans into a little bit of the overdramatic, just a little bit, just enough to sort of make you feel like you're reading like an early 90s epic fantasy. That's exactly what this is, and it was very, very satisfying. There were creatures in here, there's wraiths, and it begins with the story of a woman who is described as being at like the peak of her fitness and beauty. She's 28 years old, I believe, and she's pregnant, about to deliver. And she became pregnant from this night that was basically like a celebration of rites. Things happened, and she saw this beautiful enchanter, this man, across the way, and she was like, him. In this night of revelry, she's like, him, I want him. And so she goes after him, and he's like, okay, yes, absolutely. And then, of course, she falls pregnant. So it's very interesting because it's giving you a lot of description. She hides away into the mountains, up into the snowy mountains, like Alps, reminiscent of that, and to have her baby because of like the nature of the rites and that night of celebration, any child that is a result of the unions that happen that night is considered to be cursed. And so a lot of women, if they realize they are pregnant, they end up drinking teas to abort their babies. And she did not, because she wanted to have this enchanter's baby. She was just knew he was going to be special, he was going to be beautiful, he was going to be powerful. This baby that's in her belly right now. And she's talking as she's working her way up the mountain, because she knows her time to deliver is coming soon. Like, she can tell it's coming any day, maybe tonight. And she's thinking about her 2 other pregnancies she had, which were uncomfortable, but no problems. And she's reflecting on how this is so different, because this baby just like kicks her all the time, and like pushes. Like, it sounds like he's just like this creature in there that like wants to get out and is fighting his way out. So as she's traveling up the mountain, she hears something and she recognizes what it is. It's this dangerous creature, a wraith, and she's worried they're going to eat her. So her fear is the wraiths are feeding off of her fear, and the baby inside her recognizes the fear, and he recognizes danger is coming. And so all of a sudden the wraiths watch as she just sort of like convulses, there's blood everywhere, and then she dies. And they go and lift up her tunic, and what do they find? They find a baby with horns who's staring at them because he ate his way out of his mother. And I'm just like, what am I reading? But I like it. So I'm really interested in where the story is going. I mean, I don't know. I know Jessen said there's like maybe a romance in here, but not much. But I don't know, man. I'm just very into this. I think it was pretty entertaining, like very entertaining. So entertainment. Okay, so characters. I feel like the main character is probably going to be the evil eater baby. I'm assuming he's probably the villain or the, Dark Lord or whatever. So there also was a character of a woman who was climbing up the mountain too. So I don't really feel like I know the characters really well, but I do feel like just this very action-packed, intriguing opening was enough to hook me right away, and I really want to continue reading. So the hook was good. The characters don't really feel like I have an understanding, because it's the prologue, and then we have a time jump before we get into the first chapter, which the time jump is like 29 years later. So the characters don't really know a whole lot about that. What I saw was interesting enough, though. And then the writing style, like I said, it's very clearly written in an epic fantasy, very reminiscent of the 90s, leans into the overdramatic just a little bit with the descriptions and this sort of air of doom impending and like chosen one type of vibe. So yeah, I liked this. This was good. I would definitely continue reading this. Like, I'm probably going to continue reading it, not all in one go, but this is going to be a book that I'm probably going to pick at here and there from time to time. So All right, now the next book that I want to read, I'm not sure which one it is. I'm going to end this clip here and come back another day to read the first chapter of one of these. I'm probably most curious about this one. I really, really, really want to know what that writing is like, so I'll probably go with this one next. Okay, see you next time when I have an update on that first chapter. Hello, friends. Welcome back. We have 2 more books to try the first chapter on. I started this video a while ago, and then I just didn't have time to read a first chapter. That's kind of crazy, huh? So, I really, really, really want to do this book, like, so badly. So badly. And so I think I will. I think I will. I wasn't sure if I was going to have time to read and talk to you. I don't have a lot of free time right now, but I really, really want to read this. So what I think I'm going to do is the first chapter in this book is like 30-something pages. And they're not even like split up by chapters. This is divided into parts, and then they don't have numbered or titled chapters, but it is visually a chapter break. So that is where the first chapter ends. By the way, this is Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. I feel like I'm saying that name wrong. So this is, I'm just going to call this just fiction. I'm not sure if it's literary fiction. I suspect it probably is. But it's basically, it says it's a contemporary love story about what it means to be unwell, exploring the nature of love and how to face the fractures of ourselves and love as if we're not broken. So, I mean, that's really calling to my emo heart. One of the blurbs from Tor says, a story of 2 broken people crashing together like comets. An enthralling story about knowledge, desire, and morality. Oh wait, that's about Atlas 6. Okay. Because I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. So, okay. The first one, a story of 2 broken people crashing together like comets, glorious. That is a blurb about this book. So, I'm going to go ahead and start reading this. And because I read the prologue of the fantasy book, which was in the first clip, that one was about 11 pages. I'm going to see how far 11 pages gets me. So even though this is a try a chapter tag, I might not read the whole first chapter. Only because I'm short on time and I want to have enough time to talk to you about it. So I'm going to start reading this, and then I will come back and let you know what I think. So we're going to talk about the author's writing style, we're going to talk about the characters, and am I hooked? Those are the 3 most important things that I'm looking for in the first chapter. Here we go. Thank you for joining me.
Staring out the window on a cloudy morning, trying to lick our wounds while the tea is swarming. Sometimes it's like a bird that's never shipped out. Sometimes you go around on a never-ending rail. This week has been a mess, but I'm gonna tell you, we're a bit at work, gonna make it brand new. We're gonna plot a way for a comeback. We all in the sun time, and I promise you that. Promise you that. I promise you that.
Well, y'all, I don't know. I made it 15 pages, which is not a full chapter break. But okay, so let me tell you. My first impression of the writing in this is pretentious as all get out. This is one of the most pretentiously written books that I have ever read, and I don't think that it's successful. Because truthfully, I can really get down with some high-handed literary fiction writing, usually because it's breaking conventions in a way that adds to the story, creates a tone, a feeling, a cadence in the words, or it draws from metaphors that are very evocative and they're not overdone. And I also am not entirely opposed at all to breaking formal conventions of typically the way writing is handled in fiction. I know, like, a lot of people disagree, but I don't mind when Cormac McCarthy does that. I find it beautiful, and I think it suits his style a lot. So this is... Okay, so I feel like this is pretentious because I don't feel like the writing is particularly good. I truthfully don't feel like the writing in here is good, but it definitely feels like it's reaching. It feels like it's trying to go too hard for a tone that is very profound, and she does do that. I believe this is a woman, yes, with some devices. So it begins with a lot of pretentious. It begins with the hypothesis, which is basically telling you what's going to happen in this book. These two people are going to meet, things are going to change on the day that they meet, and they're going to think back about the time and what would have happened if they hadn't met, and it's going to be significance with a capital S, and it's going to have a ripple effect of consequence with a capital C. And I'm just sort of like, I feel like there's a lot of words to tell us nothing, to tell us very little. And if you've watched some of my videos, I think some of the most powerful, beautiful writing has a lot of brevity to it, where they use their words with a lot of care, concern, and they use them sparingly. I don't like it when authors tend to use too many words because they think that's how they're going to feel profound and beautiful. I don't like that at all, and that's exactly what she's doing here. So my overall impressions of the writing are poor. Then, once we actually get into the first chapter, it starts... almost as if it's setting up a play. There's a lot of time we're spent in the main character's head, Aldo, the hero, I'm assuming, the male lead, and there's very clearly something is wrong with him, and it's not detailed exactly what it is, but his dad calls him every day and asks him a question, and Aldo says, "You don't have to do this, Dad." So I'm assuming, is it some mental health thing? Is there something physically wrong with him? There's something that makes him unwell. I think it's pretty clear, it's setting the stage that he is unwell. So being in his head is a little uncomfortable, and I don't really want to elaborate on that because I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what is wrong with him, and I don't want to say anything really about being in his head that would be derogatory. So, but something else that this does is it's very oddly set up to read like a play, and so you have Aldo's point of view, it's in third person, and then it will say, it sets the scene, and then it sets the action, and it tells you this is what the scene looks like. The action is Aldo is rolling a joint, bringing it to his lips. And then it continues to add these little scenes of action. So you're constantly in the character's head, and then you're pulled out to this like device of, here's the scene, cut to scene, here's this action, this is what's happening. And I just find that uncomfortable, and I don't entirely know what that's adding to the power of the writing. Personally, I find it 0 out of 10. But then also it will break up and it say, oh, the narrator, so you have a narrator who's telling you what's happening here, what Aldo is thinking about. And it says, the narrator is an aging arthritic man in possession of many books. And he interrupts what is actually happening in the story to tell you the necessary academic insight. And I'm just like, this is, I don't know, man. I know somebody who, I believe, I will have to check into this, but I believe somebody whose opinion on writing that I trust very much and that I really respect is Marines. And I believe that she had some issues with the writing in here, and I was really curious to see what I would think of it. And of course, because I was so overwhelmingly curious, I picked this up in the Barnes & Noble hardcover sale. But yeah, I don't feel like I have a great impression of the characters, but I will say that it did do actually a pretty good job of setting the stage for the characters. So I think that was actually pretty well done. Now, as far as am I hooked? I kind of am. I really kind of am, because I want to know why it was giving you this ominous tone of what was going to happen when they met. And I also really want to know what's wrong with Aldo, if it is him. I'm just really curious about that. And we did get to meet the heroine, Reagan, and I don't know. She seems very forgettable. The most they have to say about her is that she's a docent at the Art Institute and she's really beautiful. So, like, a bit Mary Sue at this time. So I don't know. Am I interested in reading this? yeah, is my interest as high as it was before I picked this up? No. No, 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 no. I really don't. I really feel like reading this book is going to feel like a chore if it continues on as it has. And it actually looks like it will for a little while. So the writing is very much drawing attention to itself. And interestingly enough, this is published by Tor, which I believe is a fantasy publisher. So I don't understand why. Unless they also have an imprint of just fiction. I'm curious. I'll have to look that up. You'll have to let me know if you know. So, yeah. Overall, I'm kind of disappointed in this one. Kind of the two that I've read so far, I would a million times over read the fantasy book before I would read this. I am still going to read this at some point, but wow. I'm quite disappointed. I really, I talk a lot about writing and prose and craft, and I talk about that because of the impact that that has on story. And I do believe there is a branch of literary fiction that really doesn't care much about story. It's all about the words. And I have also talked about how much that bothers me. And that's exactly what's happening here. This feels like it was written to showcase how good she is with words. And I personally don't feel like she is good with words. So anyway, I am disappointed in this. And I will keep it to read it. But wow. Don't know when. So, all right, I'll see you another day when we'll read another chapter, and we'll see how it goes. So let me know if you've read this and what you thought of it, because I just feel like I'm not even going to say it. I was going to say somebody really thinks highly of their writing ability. That's how I feel. All right, I gotta go. I'll see you guys later. Hello. Okay, so we are back to do the last chapter. We're going to do Slave to Sensation. I'm going to read the first chapter right now and tell you what I think. So this is paranormal romance, urban fantasy-ish, shifters, sci, which I think is like fae related. I'm going to tell you what I think about the writing, and I have read this author before, but it's been several years and I only read one of her books. It was the first in the Guild Hunter series, so I am curious to see. I'm trying to get good lighting to see what I think of this now. And then characters and overall hook. So I'm very excited about this. I know this author is very accomplished and very well beloved. This series is very well beloved, so I'm hyped. Here we go. Alright, hello friends. Okay, so I read the first chapter of Slave to Sensation, and no surprises, I'm extremely impressed. I'm extremely impressed. Of all three of these, this is the one that intrigues me the most, and is the one that I want to continue reading. So I'm going to let you guys vote, actually. You vote down below which book you think I should continue reading. Slave to Sensation, Alone with You in the Ether, or the Wayfarer Redemption. You get to decide. So let me know down below which one you want to vote for. The characters in here are very well fleshed out for just 16 pages. We have our heroine, who is a Psy, the Psy are supposed to be repressing their emotions. They don't feel fear, anger, lust, passion, anything. And she's starting to feel these flashes of emotion. And the first one she recognizes is fear. And it was just so interesting. Like, I love that concept. I didn't really know that was the concept. I didn't really know what it was about at all. So I like how the Psy, they have like psychic abilities, which is very, very cool. And she is working on a business deal with one of the changelings, who is, I believe, like the wolf pack shifter, who are very much ruled by their passion and all of their emotions. And she starts feeling things when she meets him. And it's just such an intriguing world. I love that the prologue was like a page and it talks about why the Psy are taught or told to repress their emotions because they consist of basically like serial killers and things like that. And once they implemented the silence, then that stopped. So from 1979 is when they instituted it to 2079, fifth or sixth generation. Everyone had forgotten that there was any other way. I just love it. Like, I feel like it's so solid. The writing is excellent, very sharp, very quick, very easy to get the story across to you so that you're quickly invested. Big fan of the writing, big fan of the character setup. I love how our heroine, Sasha, has so much moral confliction inside of her. I don't know that confliction is a word. Whoops. How she's so morally conflicted inside. I love the hero. I think this is going to be such a fun romance. I mean, honestly, the first chapter set my expectations very high. I've heard this is maybe not the best book in the series, that they get better, but overall, the first chapter, very, very impressed. Extremely impressed. I'm very hooked with the concept and the world. I liked how the prologue was just a page, and it does sort of just dump information on you, but it's not too much. It just sets the stage of what society is like at this time in this fantasy world. I'm a huge fan of it. I thought it was fantastic. First chapter, 5 out of 5 stars. It was very, very good, and I see why this is such a beloved series. Thank you so much, SD, for gifting me this book. I can see why it's one of your favorite series for sure. So I'm very excited about this. Obviously, this is the one I want to continue with. This is the second one that I'm most interested in, just because that first prologue was like absolutely banana town, and I was like super invested, but there's no romance. So obviously, this has a great fantasy concept and great romance. So this one is selling me big time. And then this is the big disappointment. And honestly, this is the one I had the biggest expectations for and that I was most hyped about. And wow, am I disappointed. The writing, oh, pretentious and not great. So disappointing. I will still read this. I will at least find out. I will at least skim read it, because truthfully, I don't know if I can handle this writing to read the whole thing. So disappointed. Surprised and delighted by this fantasy. Absolutely impressed. Wow. So good. Want to keep reading it right now. So, all right, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this little try chapter with me. Make sure to vote down below for which book you want me to continue reading, and I'll do that. You know, vote for this one. I mean, vote for whatever one you want. All right, thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please feel free to leave me a pink heart, and I will see y'all in my next video.